Wish I weren't here. Oh, I wish I were dead. Oh, I hope this ends with no emotion of any kind.
A journey through Katharine Hepburn's hidden heart. Dear friends, have you ever sat quietly, perhaps with a warm cup of coffee or tea, and let your mind wander to the golden days of Hollywood? Those were the times when movie theaters were grand palaces, and stars like Katharine Hepburn lit up the silver screen with a magic that still lingers. Today, I invite you to join me on a heartfelt journey back to that era. We're going to uncover the hidden truths about Katharine Hepburn, a legend whose strength and spirit captivated millions. Her story is one of passion, heartbreak, and secrets she carried for 70 years. So, settle into your favorite chair. Let your thoughts drift to those bygone days. And let's explore the emotional pages of her life together. Katharine Hepburn's name is like a cherished melody from a classic radio tune. Picture a woman of unshakable strength, with piercing eyes that seem to see right through you, a voice so distinct it echoed in your heart, and a spirit that refused to bend to anyone's will. She's the only star in Hollywood history to win 4 Best Actress Oscars, a feat unmatched to this day. Her unforgettable performances in Morning Glory in 1933, The Philadelphia Story in 1940, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in 1967, and On Golden Pond in 1981 left audiences spellbound. But, dear friends, behind those iconic roles was a heart that loved fiercely, broke deeply, and carried pain that never faded. Even at 96, there were people she couldn't forgive, wounds that time couldn't heal. Let's dive into her story, where light and shadow intertwine, and love and resentment weave a tapestry of a life fully lived. Imagine a young girl born in 1907 in Hartford, Connecticut, growing up in a home filled with big ideas and bold dreams. Her father, Dr. Thomas Hepburn, was a respected urologist, a man of science and compassion. Her mother, Catherine Martha Houghton, was a tireless advocate for women's right to vote, marching in suffragette parades when such acts were daring. Known as Kate to her closest friends, she was raised to think for herself, to question the rules, and to carve her own path. You might remember those early 20th century days when women were expected to be soft-spoken, always in dresses, and forever in the background of men's lives. Kate shattered those expectations like a pane of glass. She wore tailored pants instead of frilly skirts, rode horses with the boldness of a cowboy, and stormed into Hollywood with a fire in her soul that could light up the darkest soundstage. But that same strength, that fierce independence, made her a target for deep hurts, leaving scars that lingered through the decades. Today, we'll meet 6 people who, at 96, Katharine Hepburn reportedly couldn't forgive. These aren't just co-stars, friends, or lovers from her storied life. They left lasting marks on her heart, pain, resentment, and lessons about love, trust, and the cost of vulnerability. Their stories are woven into the fabric of Hollywood's golden age, a time you might recall with fondness, when movies were a window to dreams, but also a stage for real-life drama. Let's walk through their stories, step by step, to understand why they remain shadows in Kate's life, even as she shone so brightly. First, there's Spencer Tracy. Oh, Spencer, what a name that stirs both sweetness and sorrow. Kate and Spencer shared 26 years together, from their fated meeting on the set of Woman of the Year in 1941 until his death in 1967. They made 9 remarkable films, like Adam's Rib and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where their chemistry was so electric it felt like they were made for each other. On screen, they were the perfect pair, trading loving glances and witty banter that made audiences laugh and sigh. You might remember watching those films in theaters, the glow of the screen reflecting the magic of their partnership. But in real life, Their love was a long, aching tragedy, each chapter written in tears. Spencer was married to Louise, and despite his deep love for Kate, he never left his family. Can you imagine the weight of loving someone who can never fully be yours? Living in the shadow of another woman, waiting for stolen moments, dinners in quiet restaurants, late-night phone calls, or brief escapes to a countryside hideaway. Kate gave up everything for him, her reputation, her freedom, even her pride. She faced society's harsh judgment, whispered about as the other woman, in an era when such labels carried shame. She turned down marriage proposals from others, set aside dreams of a home filled with children, all to wait for Spencer. But in the end, she learned a heart-wrenching truth. She was only a part of his life, never his whole world. When Spencer passed, Kate uncovered bitter realities. His promises, his warm embraces, were fleeting, like morning mist. He never truly chose her, though she gave her life to loving him. She once said, "I loved him most, but I hated him most." Spencer Tracy, the man Kate couldn't forgive, left a scar that lingered long after he was gone, a wound that ached even in her final years. Now, let's turn to Howard Hughes, the billionaire aviator whose charm masked a controlling nature. You might recall Hughes from newsreels of the 1930s, with his dashing smile and tales of daring flights, but his heart was cold as stone. In the mid-1930s, as Kate wrestled with loneliness from her unfulfilled love for Spencer, Hughes swept into her life like a sudden storm. He promised her the world, starring roles in blockbuster films, a life of luxury with private planes and glittering parties at his sprawling estates. You might remember the glamour of that era, when Hollywood was all about extravagance. But, dear friends, the cost of his promises was her freedom. Hughes wanted to control everything: what Kate wore, where she went, who she spoke to, even which scripts she accepted. Picture a free spirit like Kate, trapped in a gilded cage, her wings clipped by a man's ambition. She once said, "He didn't love me, he loved power." Their relationship was a suffocating nightmare. Hughes didn't just want her love, he wanted to reshape her into his ideal. He even told her, "You don't need to act, you just need to be with me." Can you feel the sting of someone trying to erase your very essence? Kate, with her fierce will, fought to break free, vowing never to let anyone cage her again. But those months under Hughes' thumb left a deep fear in her heart, teaching her that love must never come at the cost of who you are. Howard Hughes, the second name on her list, was a symbol of cruelty she couldn't forget, a painful chapter in her story that echoed through her life. Next, we come to Cary Grant, a name that might catch you by surprise. Who doesn't adore Cary Grant, with his suave charm, velvet voice, and timeless films like North by Northwest or Charade? You might have swooned over him in darkened theaters, his face glowing larger than life. Kate thought he was a friend, a trusted colleague. They starred in 4 films together, including Bringing Up Baby in 1938 and The Philadelphia Story in 1940. Their on-screen rapport a delight to audiences. Their smiles and playful exchanges lit up the screen like a summer day. But behind those smiles was a man Kate never truly knew, a heart she couldn't reach. Cary kept Kate at arm's length. Every time she tried to build a deeper friendship, sharing stories over coffee on set or confiding in him during late-night rehearsals, he pushed her away, leaving her feeling like an outsider. Have you ever felt the quiet pain of a friend's rejection? Kate believed they were kindred spirits, that their shared hours on set, laughing over flubbed lines or discussing their craft, would forge a lasting bond. But Cary saw her only as a coworker, a temporary part of his world. She once said, "He taught me that in Hollywood, nothing is real." When Kate opened up about her career struggles, moments of doubt after a string of flops, Cary brushed her off with, It's just a job. Kate, don't take it so seriously. Those words cut like a knife, revealing he never valued her as a friend. Cary Grant, once a trusted ally, became a betrayer in her eyes, wounding her trust and leaving a scar on her heart. Now, let's turn to Frank Sinatra, the legendary crooner whose songs like My Way and Strangers in the Night were the soundtrack of countless lives. You might remember swaying to his music at a dance or humming along on a quiet evening. Kate, too, fell under his spell. During a dark time, craving peace after the turmoil of Spencer and Hughes, Sinatra appeared, promising to shield her from the world. He brought evenings filled with music, records spinning softly in his apartment, and words so sweet they felt like a balm. But, dear friends, it was a trap. Sinatra wanted Kate to abandon her career, her identity, to become a shadow of his fame. He controlled her every move, even threatening to cut ties if she took roles he didn't approve. Can you imagine someone stealing the dreams that define you? Once, at a gala for women's rights, a cause Kate held dear. Inspired by her mother's activism, Sinatra disrupted her speech by arriving late and causing a scene, humiliating her before hundreds of guests. Picture the sting of being mocked publicly by someone you love, your voice drowned out by their disregard. She said, "His love was a prison." Sinatra didn't just control her, he wounded her pride, making her question her worth. When she ended things, he offered no apology, only bitter words that lingered like a bad dream. Frank Sinatra, for all his talent, left a deep wound, teaching Kate that love must never be built on control. Here's where the story takes a quieter, more secretive turn, like a whisper in a crowded room. Hollywood in those days was full of rumors, tales few dared speak aloud. The fifth person is Tallulah Bankhead, the fiery actress with a husky voice and a personality like a 4th of July sparkler. You might remember Tallulah from her dazzling stage performances or her roles in films like Lifeboat, always the life of the party with a radiant smile and wit sharper than a tack. In the late 1930s, Kate and Tallulah reportedly had a brief but stormy relationship. Picture those lavish Hollywood parties, where secrets hid behind champagne flutes and flickering lights, where the world's eyes couldn't follow. Tallulah's magnetic charm drew Kate into an emotional whirlwind. They met at a high society gala, where Tallulah's gaze seemed to melt all distance, her laughter pulling Kate into a world of possibility. In an era of rigid judgment, they found a fleeting connection, a shared spark in a hidden corner of Hollywood. But Tallulah's impulsive, unpredictable nature clashed with Kate's reserved, thoughtful calm. Tallulah lived like a wildfire, burning brightly but scorching those nearby. Kate's sensitive heart couldn't keep pace. Their bond ended in bitterness, with sharp words and misunderstandings that couldn't be undone. Kate said, "She was a storm I shouldn't have entered." Tallulah Bankhead, with all her brilliance, left Kate with a deep disappointment, a scar from a love that flared brightly but faded fast. Finally, we reach Greta Garbo, the enigmatic Swedish star who famously said, "I want to be alone." You might recall Garbo's haunting eyes and ethereal beauty in films like Grand Hotel or Camille, her presence like a painting come to life. In the late 1930s, rumors swirled of a quiet, emotional connection between Kate and Garbo. They met in private retreats in New York, where Garbo welcomed Kate to her secluded apartment, a sanctuary from the world's prying eyes. Imagine two cinema icons sharing moments only they could understand. In an era when such bonds were unspoken, those candlelit evenings, filled with soft conversations and stories told without words, were treasures to Kate. But Garbo remained distant, guarding her heart even from Kate. She once said, "She never let me truly know her." Garbo's aloofness made Kate feel rejected, as if she'd reached for a star that slipped through her fingers. Though brief, their connection left Kate with a lingering sadness, a sense of being left behind in the quiet. Greta Garbo, with her beauty and solitude, became a painful memory, not out of anger but a wistful regret for a love that couldn't bloom. Dear friends, Katharine Hepburn's life wasn't just about glittering Oscars or iconic roles that defined an era. It was a story of love, hurt, and a strength that carried her through a world that often tried to dim her light. She lived boldly, loved deeply, and faced her inner struggles with a courage that inspires us still. Each scar, from Spencer Tracy, Howard Hughes, Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Tallulah Bankhead, to Greta Garbo, shaped her into the legend she became, a woman who turned pain into power. Let's pause to reflect on Kate's journey. From a spirited girl in Connecticut to a towering figure in Hollywood, you might recall those days when movie houses were the heart of every town, where a nickel bought you a ticket to dreams. Kate faced prejudice and criticism for being too strong, too different, in an industry that preferred women to be demure. In the late 1930s, Hollywood branded her box office poison after a string of flops, a cruel label that stung like a slap. Can you imagine the pain of being rejected by the world you'd given your heart to? But Kate didn't falter. She bought the rights to the Philadelphia story, poured her soul into its production, and turned it into one of the greatest films ever made. That was Kate's spirit, never giving up, never letting others define her worth. Yet, her strength didn't shield her from heartbreak. Kate loved Spencer Tracy, knowing he'd never be fully hers. She loved Howard Hughes, despite his suffocating control. She trusted Cary Grant, only to be pushed away. She placed hope in Frank Sinatra, who stole her freedom. She opened her heart to Tallulah Bankhead and Greta Garbo, who left voids she couldn't fill. Love, dear friends, makes us who we are, but it also lays bare our vulnerabilities, like a melody that's both beautiful and haunting. Kate wasn't just a star, she was a beacon of independence. She rejected shallow roles, damsels in distress, or decorative wives, choosing instead characters with fire and intellect, like Tracy Lord in The Philadelphia Story or Tess Harding in Woman of the Year. Her choices inspired millions of women, not just in America, but across the globe, to live authentically, to stand tall in a world that often asked them to shrink. You might remember the stir she caused, a woman in slacks when skirts were the rule, her bold voice challenging studios to see her as more than a pretty face. But behind the spotlight, she faced whispers about her private life, judgments about her choices, and the quiet weight of hurts she kept hidden. In her final years, Kate retreated to her seaside home in Fenwick, Connecticut, a place of peace where the world's clamor faded. Picture a woman who once shook the foundations of Hollywood, now content with the rhythm of waves and the whisper of the wind through old trees. You might imagine her there, sipping tea on the porch, her sharp wit still sparkling even as her strength waned. Her health began to falter. Exhaustion sent her to the hospital in 1993, a sign her body was tiring. By 1996, pneumonia weakened her further, a battle few could win at her age. In 2003, at 96, she discovered a malignant tumor in her neck. Rather than endure painful treatments, Kate chose to pass peacefully in the comfort of her beloved home, surrounded by memories of a life fiercely lived. On June 29, 2003, Katharine Hepburn left us, leaving not just a legacy of films, but a story of a heart that dared to love, to hurt, and to live true. Does thinking about Kate bring a quiet ache to your heart? It does for me. She's proof that no matter how harsh life's storms, you can hold your head high, live on your own terms, and leave a mark that time can't erase. Hollywood remains a treasure chest of mysteries, with stories hidden beneath the glamour of its stage lights. Perhaps one day, we'll uncover more about the stars we hold dear, new chapters in their lives that surprise and move us. As we draw this journey to a close, imagine yourself in Kate's shoes. Could you forgive Spencer Tracy for breaking your heart, for choosing another life over yours? Would you turn away from Howard Hughes, Cary Grant, or Frank Sinatra for the ways they wounded you? Could you open your heart again to Tallulah Bankhead or Greta Garbo? Despite the pain they left behind, Kate's life teaches us that loving takes courage, but staying true to yourself takes a bravery that shines even brighter. Who among these 6 surprised you most? If you carried a secret of your own, would you hold it close to the end or share it with the world, as Kate did in her own way? Thank you, dear friends, for joining me on this emotional voyage through Hollywood's golden age. Take another sip of your coffee. Let the memories of those flickering screens and timeless stars fill your heart. And meet me again for more stories from an era that still sparkles in our minds. I'll be waiting, ready to share another tale from the days when dreams were born on celluloid.